Hello and welcome to another episode of Grange TV. We have with us Mr. Robert Whittaker, UFC Middleweight Champion, and David Roberts, TAFE Extraordinaire. Dave, I understand that you've recently had a promotion. Do you want to talk to us a little bit? Also, I want to say about this as well, because Dave Roberts is the person who makes it possible for us to have the podcast here and to align this with TAFE educational programs as well. So great use of resources, able to bring in different people that we wouldn't have our students wouldn't have the opportunity to deal with. And so tell us a little bit about what's happening with you, Dave, and what your role is at the moment.
So I just got recently appointed as a Senior Manager of Aboriginal Engagement for Western Sydney. So Western Sydney's the largest Aboriginal metro population. So pretty much what we're currently doing in Campbelltown, we'll be doing it across sort of Mount Druitt, Blacktown, and the far sort of Blue Mountains Hills area. So pretty much hopefully the GAP program will get a stronger presence in Mount Druitt and sort of start doing stuff out in the Penrith area. Can't wait.
What's Rob's role with it, and what's your relationship with Rob? Like, how does that work? What do you guys do?
Well, pretty much, Rob's Rob. He's the champion. But pretty much, especially from the TAFE point of view, just Rob's involvement in the GAP program coming out, just spending as much time as you can with the students is massive. And it just, as I said, like previous podcasts, you can't get that insight from anyone else because they haven't experienced it. And that life experience, it's only you have it. So it's sometimes even just sitting here sometimes talking because you have millions and millions of fans.
No, not quite. Dozens. Yes, dozens of fans. Tens of fans.
No, but it's sort of like that. It's surreal sometimes. It's like you're an idol to millions of people, but really hearing you on the podcast and students seeing you in the class, they just you're a human.
And I also did the Cert 3 and Cert 4.
You're a student, so it's real.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Congratulations, by the way, for your promotion. That's great news for the GAP program and for education.
Yes.
But I also appreciate letting me involved in the programs and stuff. It's great seeing the guys out there and seeing how they're coming through and trying to give a little bit of my experience on how I use what I learned here and how I use it proactively every day in what I do, I guess.
What's happening now? You just came back from New York and Chicago. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that trip? Because that was pretty interesting. It was a lot of media coverage for a whole bunch of different reasons.
Yeah, definitely. You were there, so you also know.
I was only there for a little bit.
Yeah, we've got to tell that story. We almost lost Fab. You went
with Conor McGregor's crew who smashed the bus? That's the rumour I heard.
Nah.
Yeah, I heard he actually threw something.
He threw... okay.
He was the one that told Conor it was a good idea.
Give advice.
So I went over on a bit of a media tour to sell the fight a little bit. We went to Brooklyn first because that's where the big press conference was, like the 20-man press conference.
And they had the big fight that day, the lightweight title belt.
The fights that night with Khabib and then the step in after Holloway couldn't make weight was massive. So there was a big fight there with all the media coverage there. And because it was a pay-per-view event, there was a lot of media coverage there. So they wanted us there mainly for the big press event, but then also all the press around it, all the scrumming. It was gnarly. If from here to New York was something like 23 hours, and it was it's like 3 different flights because you had to change so many times. It was an absolute mess. You were there with me. When we got out of that plane, we were just, this is terrible. And it was the thing is, it's not just the flight, because the flight you can deal with. You get, because you've done flights before. When you go away, you get there, you're a little jet lagged, you have a day off, you chill out, and you're all good after a couple of days. You eat whatever you want. But when we get there, we're still working. So the diet is on point. The training sessions still have to get done, and then we have to work to the itinerary that the UFC laid out for us, which was like 9:30 this, 9:45 this, 10 o'clock this, 10:30 this. It was bang, 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 and everything in Brooklyn, in New York, took longer because I'd only have maybe 3 media events or 3 interviews with different companies before midday, let's say, but I'd have to start at 6:30 because of the traffic there. It'd take you It'd take you like an hour to get 2 blocks. It's just, it was noisy, messy, it was loud, it was really hectic.
I think people forget as well, like, it's hard, like all the stuff that he was saying then, like you're fighting, you're training, but like when you see Rob at a press conference and people don't get that, like we basically went over the weekend to the US, so you basically go over the weekend and we come back, and we live in Sydney, Australia. You probably can't live further away, and so then you deal with the jet lag of when you get there and the jet lag when you get back. And then you still have to balance family, personal lives, jobs, all of that. It's pretty full on.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, because like taking along Fab is great. It's exactly what I think, like as a high caliber athlete, is what I need, because I get there and we're still working. We're still sticking to the program that we laid out here. We're still getting our sessions done. We're eating right. We're doing the right things. We're not getting swept up in all the stuff around it, which is easy to do, because that particular weekend they had like 30 champs. They had all the champs and like 30 different fighters there, and all top dudes, and they all want to get together. And the UFC kind of promotes that. They kind of want you to get together with these guys and do things with them. But I think it's very important to separate yourself from the bullshit, if you would, because at the end of the day, it is a business. We're running a successful business here, and we need to act like that. So balancing all that stuff and going there with that mentality driving you, and dieting and trying not to get swept under all the crap around it, sticking to the UFC itinerary, making sure your sessions are done, and then you still need to find a little bit of time to be jet lagged, and a little bit of time just to zone out and read your book or watch some shows or something. Because remember, at the end of the day, like we do what we do and we're good at it, but we're still humans. If I don't get like an hour or two of gaming a day, like I become a mess, dude, and it's hard.
And you aren't robots, so sorry, go on.
I've only heard your experience of jet lag, Fab, and he's the biggest whinger. Like, he's like, I don't like to travel along whinger. So, what's that? So you're a bigger whinger, Rob?
I wouldn't say I'm a bigger whinger. Like,
I agree that I don't know a bigger whinger than Fab.
That LA trip, where Fab passed out in the lobby, and the security had to ask him to leave, was the worst I've ever seen someone. Like, it was a bad
But
trip.
I was actually passed out. Like, I wasn't like whinging about it. I was actually passed out.
He was passed out in the lobby.
How the fuck do you pass out?
Oh, it was.
I was gone, eh?
He was a mess.
Not only that, like, you could hear us through, like, as we moved through airports and that, you could hear, like, they'd go clean up in toilet, whatever, because I'd throw up. I kept throwing up.
Threw up in a couple of different states. It was crazy. He told me.
Every time I'd get there,
when we got to Denver, we were walking through the thing, and he goes, "Be right back." I went back. He come back out. He goes, "I didn't make it." like 30 minutes later, there's a big sign saying "closed" out the front of the bathroom. Yeah,
is it true?
It was the jet lag is a mess. Because the thing is, the way it affects me anyway is that when I get to New York, I try to. I'm super tired at the weird hours, but even if I get to bed too early, because I'll be dead tired by like 6 p.m. And if I go to bed at 6 p.m, I'm waking up at like 3 a.m. And then I either have to get through the whole day again. And then, like, if you don't make it, you're having a nap and then you're staying up until 2 a.m. But then you still wake up at 3 a.m. It's weird. It is real, and it takes like for the better part of a week to truly, for me anyway, to get over it. Because I remember with the Jacare fight, we got there 10 days early, and we used
probably a little bit before that.
Yeah, but it was a little bit shorter than we do now, because we didn't realize it could be this bad. But with the Jacare fight, we were so jet lagged, and it was just in Kansas, which is closer than Chicago. But we were so jet lagged, we were actually thinking, like, are we going to make it to the fight, or are we going to be jet lagged the whole way through? Like, it was pretty bad at one stage. It got a little bit worrying. So ever since that time, we have to give it a huge buffer, because it's certainly real.
And I think, the thing is, like, it was Maurice Green, the 100-meter runner. The won gold, I believe he won gold in Sydney Olympics, and in the 100 meters, US guy. And he said, like, what people don't realise, like, 'cause there's probably people listening going, yeah, well, I flew to Chicago and I partied all weekend, whatever. But what people don't realise is, like, the more fine-tuned an athlete you are, the more susceptible you are to everything. So say, for example, Maurice Green was saying, like, people don't get that. If he's a 100-metre runner, he's in prime physical condition. If he's running up a flight of steps and he trips and he gets a bruise on his knee, that bruise on his knee affects him much more greatly than it will affect a normal person, because that might take 0.3 seconds off his 100-metre run. So that's massive for him. It won't affect a normal person. And for someone like Rob, he can't just go there and, like, I can operate even feeling bad, but I don't have to fight anyone. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't.
You can throw up everywhere.
I can throw up all over the airport, and it won't. I don't have to fight anyone. I don't care.
You're just keeping the cleaners employed.
Dude, I was bad. That trip, I was bad.
I've never seen him like that bad ever. It was.
Yeah.
Was
But
pretty bad.
you've spoken to me before about sort of, you know, some of the prep stuff after a flight, going into the sauna, dehydrating.
After the flight.
After the flight.
Yeah. Hey, I can't hear you properly.
Can't hear. Oh. I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah, I can't hear you through the headset. I'm hearing your voice.
Yeah.
How's that?
Oh, there we
Now
go.
I can hear you, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so, you spoke to me before about after flights you want to get into a sauna, sort of get all the sweat out, rebuild.
Generally what we try and do is, because you're dehydrated, so we've got to make sure we drink water throughout those long flights. And then, like, you're bloated and you feel terrible, so we try and get a good workout in, get a good sweat, get some of that, like, all that fluid out of your body.
But low impact though, like super low impact, especially when we land. It's super low impact because you've just gotten off 20 hours of flying.
Yeah, but that's like 20 hours of flying. Like, that doesn't include layovers. That doesn't include, like, one time we had to fly somewhere, I can't even remember now, and we got to Sydney Airport, we had to wait like 10 hours, flight got delayed, we drove home, then we had to drive back the next day, get in the plane, drive, which flight? It was Natal flight. The Natal flight.
I think it was the Kansas one.
No, it was a Natal flight because we flew to Vegas. I remember it was the first time I'd been to Vegas, and it was not fun because of all of that, you know. So you're still, like, you don't relax when that happens. So in a situation like that, it's probably like 50 hours where you're just messing around. And so, like, they're the kind of trips, like, you're looking at maybe over 30 hours plus door to door, and then we get there and you feel terrible, you know. So we try and do a workout, jump in a sauna, sweat, do a pool session, and even that's hard to do,
especially if you're tired, because like for me anyway, I can't really sleep on planes very well. Like I just cannot sleep for some reason. I don't know, it's just like a thing I have. So by the time I get to my destination, I am a mess. So sleep deprived.
So like, you know, for the general traveller, they can take, you know, particular sleeping pills and stuff like that. What that means you can't, or
I literally don't take anything. Like,
yeah.
If I get a headache, I don't even take headache tablets, because you never know, especially with how often I get tested and everything like that. It's not worth it. Plus, again, like Fab mentioned earlier, with the 100-metre runner, I take a sleeping tablet that puts me off. And I've taken sleeping tablets before when I was younger, and you never feel very good.
It's not
when
like
you
sleep.
wake up.
It isn't. I've never taken them, but I can't imagine it being sleep.
You kind of feel drowsy, and like, it's a game of percentages, you know. And then when you get to the place, it's just that much worse. And I don't know.
So how much do you get tested for? Any sort of, like, because a headache pill for a normal, we talk about the normal human. Clearly, you're not the normal human, so you can't do that. So how often do you get tested for?
It's random testing. So you're in a pool and they can come at any time. For this last fight, like this year alone, I've been tested, I think, 3 or 4 times by USADA. Rock up at my house, 6 a.m, boom, 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 and then by 6:30, there's a bloke watching me pee. So that's a thing to wake up to. Tell you that much.
So no preparation. They just knock on your door like the Gungies and just say, "Hey, give me some urine."
Yep, exactly that.
Far out.
Oh, and bloods. I take bloods as well. So yeah, but it's just what you got to do. Like, I think to be honest, I think it should be more. I'd be happy to sign up for like a weekly test. Let's see people get through that.
Yeah.
You know.
One of the things on that travel and everything, like we had Craig Alexander here as a guest last week, and he's a famous triathlete. For those that don't know, I don't know, he won the Hawaiian Ironman 3 times, 2 times back to back, etc., etc. One of the things he was talking about was, and other times that I've spoken to him, just like the balance of like keeping the sponsors happy whilst at the same time you performing. And it's this funny relationship because you enter a business agreement with your sponsor whereby you're going to represent them, and you're going to represent them in a positive light so that ultimately they can make money. And part of that is turning up to sponsorship agreements and doing stuff for them, etc., which, like, they're not just giving you money for nothing. You have to do that. But on the flip side of that, if you do that too much, you can't perform. And if you can't perform, they're not going to want to sponsor you. So a lot of it is you understanding that you entered a business agreement with someone, and it is exactly that. It's a business agreement, a partnership, whereby they're going to pay you provided that you do the things they want you to do and perform, whilst at the same time ensuring that you perform, which it can be at odds sometimes.
Super amount of times. Like you've been there most, like the whole journey, and especially since I started getting sponsored, like because nobody wants to sponsor you when you're not very good at what you do, when you're not getting the wins, when you're not super in when you're not winning, when you're not in the winning column. People don't want to sponsor you, they don't care. But since it started having success, more sponsors have jumped on board, and at first I'm like, yeah, bring them all on, but then you start to worry about how much of that is eating into your time, like into your training sessions. Like, how much is that session worth? And I've had a lot of discussions with Fab about it, and it's like there've been deep discussions on wondering how much is this session that you missed for this sponsor worth. So I like to think we found a nice balance of sponsors and time management in a way that I don't take on a ton of sponsors, and the sponsors that I do have understand how important it is for me not to be disturbed through certain periods, to keep their appointments with me between certain times, or keep them short and sweet. And I know I have more of a relationship with my sponsors than anything, because they need to understand where I'm coming from, and I understand where they're coming from. So, and once you have that sort of relationship with a sponsor, like, I want to work for them, and I think that's a big thing. Whereas you want this to work together, and finding that balance is hard though. We've struggled with it in the past a couple of times, and I think we've found a good medium here. But you always got to be switched on about it. You always got to keep looking at it. Again,
I think it was with Craig as well, when we were talking about, like, you get to a certain point in your athletic career, and I think that's where Rob is now, where the physical training is pretty much, when you have to go, what you have to do, what skill sets. We all working on that, and that we have a pretty good. We have a really good group of coaches, auxiliary coaches as well, that we can draw from, and a lot of the conversations and discussions and, like, I would say, healthy disagreements that we've had are no longer really about training. It's not like, and a lot of people ask that, they go like, do you have a disagreement, like, where if Justin says to do this, you think it should, like, Alex thinks it should be that? And those conversations rarely, if ever, happen, like, on a technical basis. Because at the end of the day, he's the one that's going to fight too. But we have a really good group, and that doesn't happen. But a lot of the times, it's about stuff surrounding it. So say, for example, like conversations like that, where you say, a session is worth X amount of money, and there's 5 sessions in a day, so it's X times 5. That's how much. If you're going to miss 3 days of training, right? That's just financially, you need to be compensated. I don't know, now my maths is terrible. 5 times 15, or 15 times X, right? That's just for that. But then we have to put into account on a sequential plan how much missing those sessions costs, and how much are you going to get paid for that, and they're the centers around those discussions. So sometimes you might look like you lost 15 grand, you might look like you lost 20 grand, but in effect, we're mitigating other problems by giving that money up or paying that money or whatever you have to do.
I understand, because like over the course of like 3 years, on the same graph, you've lost something like 200 grand.
100%.
Like, how much is this skill set worth? It's
or that decision, you know what I mean? Because that decision is going to lead you down this path, and then down that path and that path.
I've got a question for you, Fab. How hard is it to manage stuff like that? To be aware not only, because you're my high performance coach, and so you manage like across the board my performance outside of the octagon, which a lot of people don't realize. It's like, I don't rock up to the gym and say, hey Fab, how you doing? And then leave the gym and say, bye Fab. No, you're on all the time. How hard is it managing someone like myself or a high caliber athlete 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
I guess I'm very flattered that you should say that, but I think first and foremost, everyone, like I believe everyone should do stuff to their skill set. So if you ask me to put this table together, even if you gave me the instructions, come on guys.
I can't help it because I know you're useless with your hands.
You should see him dance.
Fuck, there's only insult fab hour. If you ask me to put this table together, I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not going to be good at putting stuff onto a spreadsheet. I'm not going to be good at a lot of things. But there's certain things that I'm good at, and there's certain things that my skills have gravitated towards. And over the years, like we were talking yesterday with Darren Harvey, he's like a producer. He was on the podcast yesterday, and he's talking about how he went through school for a long time living with the stigma that he was stupid, because it's very hard to quantify the skill set that he has. And this guy's like, when he goes out and he has to figure out the logistics of like when they're following the tour down under, how many helicopters to use and when a helicopter can refuel and all this, and how to film or which camera angles and how to bounce off the satellite, whatever. There's no subject for that at school, you know. So he went his whole life until he started thinking he was stupid. So my skill set, I believe more so than anything, is like in people management. And then I always surround myself with people that I can learn from, both in that field specifically, and then just people that are good in their field in others. So like, I don't know, guys like David, Andrew Canatli, Adnan, the accountant, people like that, and I just draw from that. Then the other thing I've learned really like be conscious of is to listen to my instincts and understand that, like, for whatever reason they're reasonably sharp. And so another thing I understood, guys from like Tim, the guy we had here on the podcast, the psych dude, only way to predict future behavior is past behavior. You know, I don't know if that's the only way, but that's certainly one of the strongest ways. So you kind of look at situations. I like to read a fair bit, and so I look at a situation and I understand, like, what you're going through now, someone else has gone through it already. And when you've read enough of those, dare I say, case studies, they're like, it's pretty obvious, you know. So for me, because I just do that stuff automatically, it's not that hard to do it. I don't know if you're asking me how hard it is. Like, it's not that hard.
Because it sounds like I've thought about the amount of stuff I put you through personally, and it's a nightmare.
It's not, but it isn't that hard.
Myself.
What is hard for me? But you think of this, like, if I had to fight someone, it'd be extremely hard for me. It'd be hard. It'd be hard psychologically to fight someone. It'd be hard physically for me to fight someone, and I'm not even like without certain skill sets, at least. But even then, the concept of fighting someone, it'd be hard. I don't like it. It doesn't attract me. But the other stuff, it's not that hard for me, to be honest. Like, there's things that happen where I've been, and it's hard personally, probably, you know, people that are listening out there have to deal with me on a personal level. It's probably hard because, like, I'm in tune to that sort of shit. So I'll always like be like, well, what did that mean? And they're like, just fuck off and leave me alone. You know what I mean? Just leave me alone. But in general, it's not hard because it's just my skill set, and I understand that that's my skill set, and I'm exploiting that skill set. And in fairness, you're very receptive and intelligent to it, whereas I can see like people sometimes go, you should work with so-and-so, and I think, but I'll tell so-and-so, or I'll say something, and I'm not saying that I'm always right, but I'm saying, like, if I'm saying something to you and it's based on it, and then you go, well, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want to do anyways, and then it ends up being that I was right, and then you do it again, then you may as well listen to the radio. So not everyone is going to be receptive, and in fairness, not everyone's going to click organically, you know. So I don't know, like so it's not that hard for me.
I think that's a big point too, is that the clicking organically.
I can't make it happen. Like
massive.
you know, people like that. This is the other thing. I think I'm also one of my strengths is I'm pretty good at understanding that. Like we might be okay, you know, we might be good friends and we might be able to have dinner together and go, but that doesn't mean that we're able to train and perform at the level that you and I might be able to, because our relationship's different. But then again, you and I might not be able to go and have dinner together, for instance.
You can't have dinner together?
No, not anymore. But you know what I mean? Like, different relationships require different things, and you have to be able to identify if this person, you can have a really good business partner relationship with them, etc. And this person might be just someone you watch movies with, but you'll never enter a business. I've got friends that are great friends, but I would never enter a business deal with them. Like, not because they're bad people, that's not the relationship you have with them.
Because people don't realise, like, sometimes me and Fab go to different sessions together throughout the day. There are some days where, like, me and him leave for the first session at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we don't get home till about 9 o'clock at night. Like, that's a whole day. And like, working together with someone for that long is, you have to click organically. Even if, like I said before, it's not, you don't rock up to the gym and say hi Fab and then leave the gym and say bye Fab. It's, you know, if you want to tick all the boxes and do everything right, that has a lot to do with it.
The other thing is, there are guys out there though that would operate much more like, you could just give them a spreadsheet, for example, and say to them, this is the work you have to do, go ahead and do it. And that guy might go out and do that, and he works really well like that. And he's not really a people person, and he doesn't require that emotional content in the day-to-day life. But then there's other people that it's like, for me, for instance, like, I don't care what you have to say unless I kind of like you. Then other than that, I don't care.
What happened in your past to make you feel like that? So let's a bit of a counselling session here.
My parents.
No, exactly. No, that's I'm happy to explore that, because before, when we were talking about Tim, about past events reflect your current sort of case study. What's your case study? What's your case study? Well, just because you brought it up, like, in the past, like, because you have to be wired a particular way. So was it family? Like, what's
I definitely think it's innate. Yeah. Like, I'm drawn to certain things, and definitely my family, for sure. Like, my parents, like, don't, like, money outside of buying stuff is devalued versus relationships. Do you get what I mean? Like, if I treated my mum and dad like shit, they wouldn't care if I earn whatever I earn. So money's devalued outside of being able to buy shit. Like, we're not stupid. We don't go, money doesn't matter, let's live in a hut. Like, no, like, yeah, money outside of relationships is devalued in my household, in my parents' household, I should say. I don't think they ever said that to me, but it's very apparent. So I guess you learn to value the relationships you have with people. And I think another thing is, and Darren Harvey spoke about it yesterday, problem solving, understanding that, like, I'm not bound to somebody, I'm not bound to TAFE, I'm not bound to things, like, in the sense, like, I'll figure it out. If I lose my job at TAFE, I'll figure it out. I'm going to get another job or something. You will figure it out. And my mate, Glenn, who works for TAFE, he always says, there's no such thing as secure jobs, only secure people. So you got to, like, understand your skill set and understand your value in the market, I suppose. And that all comes, I think, from my family. Like, they like I said, the values in relationships. We didn't grow up with a lot of money, so there was never like money wasn't a big thing in it. So that's always allowed me to understand how people. The other thing is exactly what Darren Harvey said the other day. So that's allowed me to understand stuff. Like, sometimes Darren was saying, people come into the gym No, he goes to people's gyms or he goes somewhere and he goes in himself, and this is stuff that I speak about with Rob. He goes himself and his 2 cameramen, for instance. And people speak to him and ignore the cameramen because the cameramen are deemed lower. And he looks at that as like already, this guy's not a good guy. Maybe he's just having a bad day, his catfish died. But if it happens 3 or 4 times, then he knows this guy is like piece of shit kind of thing, you know, my words, not his. And it's something that I think, because I place so much value on relationships inside my household, it's there. And so, and you know, like, unfortunately it is, like, I see it all the time, like people don't treat people like this, or they don't treat, and I was fortunate enough to come through without being from a family that had money or anything, so I always got like the true sense of how people are, you know what I mean? I'm not particularly gifted as an athlete or as anything, so I was always able to see like how people treated me or treated other people.
Well, are you saying that like once you see money as for what it is, it's just a tool in the sense of purchasing?
This is my opinion. This is not what I think other people should be. Like I'm not preaching. I'm just saying how I see it.
No, but because I can tell that, because I can see that your skill set is very, very heavily based towards connections and networks and interacting with other people, with humans. Whereas myself, not so much.
Yeah, but I don't think that you value. I don't think that you put value. Like, say for example, this is just my observation. Your skill set, you mean, is because your skill set is based on fighting. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I'm antisocial at the best of times.
Yeah, but I don't think that you place money out over your family. I don't see you, say for example, saying to Sophia, no, you can't get this because I earn the money.
No, I definitely see money as a tool.
Yeah, it's a means to an end. Like, I understand the importance of money. I understand that I have to earn set amount of money to do A, B, C, and D, and I don't want it to be a burden. But it's devalued in terms of relationships. Like, it's not, and so my primary concern is the running of a relationship. Like, it's almost like an organism, you know what I mean? Like, so then when you build a team based off those relationships and those networks, and the relationship has to be strong. And it might sound all airy-fairy and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if the coaches don't get along, you've seen this how many times?
Too many.
Like I was talking when we were talking with Craig, like when we go overseas and I see coaches that, like, they might not even be aware that those connections exist. It's not even their fault. The coaches and the athletes, they're together for the wrong reasons. It's like any other relationship. You might see husband and wife and you're like, you're together for the wrong reasons, you know what I mean? This isn't going to last.
It's funny you say that. You mentioned just then that they don't even know that those relationship ties exist. I was very much like that until I started hanging out with you and we started working together, and you started making me aware of the different depths of relationships. And it was, to be honest, when you first told me, it was like mumbo jumbo. Like, I didn't.
This guy's high.
Like, I was like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not how this works. I just like, and more as I mature, I guess, as a person, and as I get an understanding, and as things you say constantly keep happening, I see more and more these ties and why people are together, for what reason, and how they're not going to last together, and how healthy, I guess, a relationship is. And in a coaching environment, it is absolutely nuts when you see those guys with like 7 coaches come in, and they're all. And
if the 7 get along well and they work
7 exactly,
great, but they don't a lot of the times.
There's 7 coaches means there's 7 personalities, and then you have to look at each personality. I was like, why is each one of these guys doing it for?
But you got 5 main coaches too.
But thankfully you handle a lot of the relationship side of that part. Like, obviously I have my own share and my part to do as well, but because you're so wired towards relationships and relationship health and whatnot, it's much easier on me because you make me aware of certain things and you also manage certain things in a different sense. So like it's very important towards, I think, any team, not just my team, towards any team, any business, is the relationship health of your staff members, co-workers and all that.
I think people don't also, I think a lot of times like you're talking to someone and they're like, no, that's different. You're talking about fighting and we're talking about a marriage here. And like, it's not, there's no difference. It's like, if you're so, you might be wired in a way that you can't think laterally, but the dynamics might be a little bit different or whatever. But a relationship is still a relationship, and it doesn't mean that like I know or that I'm some perfect relationship person, because I'm fucking far from it.
You gotta say that. Bab's guru.
Yeah. What was that guy that did the love song dedications?
Richard Mercer.
I'd be like him.
You have to, man. That's great.
No, but it's more like just understanding that this is a relationship. This is a relationship. Your partner at home, that's a relationship. And if you don't communicate adequately, if you don't, you know what? And sometimes, unfortunately, people don't understand this. It's come to an end. For whatever reason, it came to an end. And a lot of the times people want to lay blame on it, or they go, not necessarily to me, but I hear it, they go, oh, he's going to talk about a relationship, he just got divorced, what the fuck would he know? And I think that doesn't mean that he didn't have a relationship. It just means that the relationship occurred and now it's over. And that person that got divorced probably have better understanding, you know? Maybe you've been married for 30 years and you have a shit relationship. You sleep in separate fucking houses. It doesn't, you know what I mean? And you go, we've never had an argument. When was the last time you spoke? 1998. You know what I mean?
It's funny talking to you, like even just talking about it now, it's like I'm more and more realizing how undervalued relationships are, and how relationships like it's not seen as a skill set. It's I think it's because it's something you're born with since day dot, is talking and interacting, or most of us interacting with other people. You don't realise the skill set that's in play, so you never try to improve on it. I think some people are just naturally good at it, and some people aren't, because that's different stuff. But I think as a skill set, it's highly undervalued.
I think another thing that I've learned this, like I kind of knew it, but I've really, like recently a few things have happened where it's like I've gone, yeah, okay, cool, I get that. It's like, don't make excuses for behaviour. Don't. And not for my own, but not for my behaviour, not for Rob's, not for yours. There might be, and there's two separate things. Like, this is my opinion. I have no empirical evidence. There might be some, but I have none. This is purely anecdotal. You know, like, don't make excuses. Right, there might be a reason for something happening, and that's we can talk about that later. But don't make excuses. Like if you did something, I'm going to be like, and there might be a reason. Your cat might have died, whatever. But when it's high stakes and we're dealing with a lot, like I'm going to like know that you did what you did, and if it affects Rob, I'm going to come, and now because we have a good enough relationship, I'm going to come and say to Rob, hey, Rob, A, B, C, and D happened, and this is what I think of this person. It doesn't mean I hate the person. It just means this person did these things. Let's wait and see what this person does. And I think he's going to do this. And then when that next thing comes up, and it went the way that we thought it was going to go, which might not be positive, then you have to understand that this isn't happening by accident, you know. And sometimes it goes the other way, and you go, okay, cool, and then you realize, oh, that happened because he was having a bad day, and that's okay. But at no point do we excuse the behavior. There might be reasons for it, and the reason might come out later on, and you're like, his mum was sick, and that's why he was this, and he wasn't thinking, and that's why he said that. But when it starts going the other way, there's no my mum was sick. Let's address this because we can't deal with that.
I think that highlights another skill set that my team fortunately has is Fab's awareness of preventing problems before they happen. I think that's a big thing. A lot of businesses, a lot of groups and training groups, and our team in particular have taken advantage of is seeing a potential problem down the road and dealing with it well before.
In fairness, though, that's not just me. Like all the coaches, like Justin Fitzgerald, Justin Lang, Alex, myself, are very open to having these conversations. And we're all very, very close, so we can have disagreements. So it's not like I'm some like Jabba the Hutt sitting there working this out. Like, I can have these conversations, and they got so much experience. And then the other thing that's crazy is like Justin Lang has John Lang, who's his father, and Martin Lang, who's his brother, to draw from. And when I say to you, the only thing to predict it is the past behaviour. John Lang's seen it.
Yeah.
And then through Alex, you have like guys like Sergio Pena and Murillo Bustamante and Alex's older brother, Andrew Canatli. Through Justin Fitzgerald, he's gone through it all with Sakio and with other fighters. And then guys like I said, Andrew Canatli, Adnan, our accountant, to a lesser extent because they've just come on board, but Titus and Stuart McKinnon, Stuart McKinnon's seen it all in combat. They still coming into the fold, so to speak, but like we have such a rich network of people. Yourself, other guys like Eli, that's always on this thing as well, on the podcast, that has done so much coaching and that. We don't turn around and go, oh no, we're not. No, I want to hear what their opinions are, and you can draw so much from them, and then we sit down and we come to a decision.
But you can only do that. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
But you can only do that though if you have a positive relationship with the people around you.
No, otherwise is
exactly
nothing.
Like me coming into the TAFE and talking with Dave and talking with Eli and a lot of the other staff members here. So I can only do that because I've nurtured a relationship here with them during different times I've been here.
Yep. I've heard you both speak, and this is because I've just been listening, not really sort of chat too much, but in terms of a business sense, because yous are a business, yeah? At the end of the day, yous are a business. What is your business structure in that sense? Because it sounds like that internal network, are you, because you're talking marketing, you're talking budgets and all that sort of stuff. Where does the business model kick in for you guys?
Do you want to answer it?
I'll start it. I think you can go into more depth. Because I barely understand it, to be honest.
But that's your role in the business too. You can't know everything.
The thing is, I think, being that the athlete that I am as a fighter, I think a lot of people have preconceived notions of what I do and what it is the group around me does. And I think the perception is that I'm a thug. We train, we punch things, we get into the ring, we punch other things, and we go home, get paid, pay people. That's it. But that's not how it works. Not from, in my case anyway. I like to think that the operation we run here and the business we run here is no different to any other successful business out there. And not just in this field. I'm talking across the board. Is that we have a successful business like any other. We have overheads, we have staff members, and we have deadlines, we have demands that need to be met, and all that is just part of the process, which is how we run things. And we run a tight ship, and Fab, take over.
Well, I think the number one thing is you said all of that, but you're a business as well. But I think that the way I've always seen it is, number one, first and foremost, we're a business, and we have to have access to foresight. So that only comes from having experience, and we're only going to be able to draw on that experience from having a strong team that are at different levels of that foresight. So I don't have the business foresight that Andrew Canatli does or that Adnan does, and I'm kicking myself now for a different topic. Like Adnan, our accountant, told me to do something and I didn't do it, and I couldn't do it at the time, but I should have done it. So I see us as like a conglomerate of 4 or 5 different businesses, maybe more, 5, 6 different businesses, and business partnerships. And none of those business partnerships work by themselves. They can work by themselves, but now that where we're going, it's a conglomerate that's come together. And one of the conduits for that is Rob. Another one is fighting and combat sports in general from the rest of the fight team. Another one is training and, for example, consultancy work that we might do. And definitely education is another conduit. And that's how I see the business structure.
Because like for the general thing, you would think that a normal business structure in this game is Rob's the head, you're the CEO, you're calling all the shots. Underneath you have this team of coaches, they all work for you. Like I'm just taking, if you take a very structured business model where you're the CEO, but it sounds like in this relationship, it's not that, it's a whole bunch of smaller individuals.
I would see it as a conglomerate of businesses, and Robert Whittaker MMA is a strong one.
We're that's exactly how we say. I think we're all partners in this business, and we're not.
Sorry, Rob, to cut you off. In Robert Whittaker MMA, I would see Rob as the CEO. Absolutely.
But that's only one part of a bigger
collective business,
because we're not limited to just fighting. And that's a big thing, and that's a big thing that has helped me a lot in my success and with just living, is knowing that I'm not just a fighter. I don't need to just get in there and punch people to earn a living. I am so much more than that, and through this conglomerate, if you will, through my networks and through my partners, we've worked things out. Like it's not my only source of income, and it's not my only source of work. I have many different skill sets that allow me to do different things outside of the octagon, and the octagon is just one part of a bigger chain.
It's obviously also the octagon is the best use of his skill set, which I see at TAFE sometimes. It's like a ridiculous misuse of skill sets. It's just to say, oh, you didn't fill in your TPDs, where like blah 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 blah, and I think like, yeah, you're like, use your brain. It's like me saying, Rob, from now on, Thursdays and Fridays I want you to be the receptionist, because I want to really spread out this skill set. And Barbara, once a week you have to do some hard sparring. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work that way. So his skill set is his best skill set at this moment is fighting. So we must take advantage of that in this business model. And another thing that's very important is this, and I've taken a lot from TAFE, like a lot of the stuff that we do, and there are some things that TAFE does amazingly well, and it's so far ahead of the curve. And then there's some stuff that's archaic, you know. But another thing is the scaffolding. So say, for example, in that conglomerate, there might be live athletics, stand strong boxing,
Bulldog Castle Hill. Gracie Smith
and Grange, Robert Whittaker MMA, TAFE New South Wales, in particular the Aboriginal unit, Macquarie Fields Health Fit, all of that. So there's this conglomerate of businesses that all work together in different levels. And the scaffolding occurs, and this is sometimes people don't get this, is like, I don't have to sit here and go, in this episode wear a Live Athletic shirt, because Justin's Live Athletic, Miranda, shout out, is going to get its moment in the sun just from being around us, and from him growing, we create the scaffolding for Stand Strong to get stronger, because we're all associated. And it doesn't have to be like, say for example, Andrew Canatli runs Avoca Clothing and Kaplan Homes, that's another shout out, but I don't have to sit here and shout them out day in, day out, because it starts to become synonymous anyways. So the whole little business model starts to become synonymous, and there isn't that ego thing in the middle of it, because there isn't a thing where Justin Fitzgerald will ring me and say, I noticed that you mentioned David Roberts 4 times and me 3 times in that podcast. There isn't, but we laugh, but it's very prevalent.
Yeah, well, definitely. Ego is a killer.
Massive.
But as good Gracie affiliates, we leave our egos at the door.
There you go. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Smith and Grange.
Shout out.
Topham Road, 356. 35 classes a week, starting at 6:30 a.m. So, yeah.
Just build to that, like, you've got a fight coming up. in terms of, like, you were talking about all the pressure, all that sort of stuff, jet lag, what's your plan moving into this next one? Because it's huge, right? It's
yeah, well, we were talking about the trip in New York and we just derailed.
Here's another thing, on that same topic, I just asked something because I saw a podcast the other day, Australian dude talking with TK. Shout out to Talking with TK. Today's shout out day. But he's a dude that started a podcast as well, and I want to try and get him on our podcast. So he had Dorian Yates on his podcast, and Dorian Yates, for those who don't know, won Mr. Olympia, I don't know, like 6 times or something, and he was saying that he based himself out of England and trained in like this relatively small gym in England, and they said, why don't you go and train in the US? That's where all the big and he said he loved training in England because when he went there, he realized that the bodybuilding world in the US was like a fraternity, Venice Beach and whatnot, and he loved training at home because they didn't know anything about him, whereas they all kind of knew about each other. And I found that was a parallel with you. Yeah,
definitely, because I also find one of our guys the other day went to a comp the other day, and everyone's going up to him going like, where do you train out of? Do you do MMA? Well, where's your MMA classes? And so it's funny because like we are one of the, I'd like to think we're like one of the best teams in the world at mixed martial arts, at what we do at combat, and we don't run an MMA class. Like we have such a tight team. There's just a few in the crew. We're not recruiting. Like if people want to join and stuff, we're never out looking for members. It has to be like an organic thing, and we just work together real well. And the fact that like when we went over to New York, the other fighters, they don't know me. They know nothing about me. They don't know how we live down here. they don't know anything.
But the best is
us.
Like the opinions. Like this guy came in to do like a story on Rob, and like the people have opinions, but they don't know anything. They're like, how does Rob get by without having the training partners to train with? And you think like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Jacob, Izzy don't exist.
Yeah, like, and the guys are there. Like the guys are like right there where the wall is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're standing next to me.
And like people don't know. And you hear like, commentators and whatnot saying how, he doesn't, without wrestling partners or without this or without that. And I just think like, what do you like? You think he's just like that gifted that he doesn't train? He doesn't have training partners. So I think that like I was just that I found it interesting when I saw that on the podcast. But sorry, you were saying about
that's more or less it. I like sticking to myself. I like sticking with my friends, sticking with my team, because like all of it aside, I enjoy what I'm doing. Like, and I think that's the biggest part, because I train too much not to enjoy it. I sweat too much. I bleed too much. It's too much stress to not enjoy it. And I have a great team. We care for each other. I have a great relationship with my teammates and my coaches. We get work done. We go overseas. We get the job done. We come back. I see my family every day. I pop in. I see them throughout the day sometimes. There are options there that they can drive and watch me train. And I think that's perfect. You couldn't take that away from me. If it was between living like this and leaving my family, like, it's not even a joke. It's not even a choice.
But aside from your family and that, the training, you've trained overseas, the training's, how comparable is the training?
They're not. I think the biggest part with training that I've learned in my career thus far is that the training has to agree with you. If you can do whatever you want if it works for you, like, that's fine. And you see that across the board with the mixed martial artists, is that this guy does this and this guy does that. This guy doesn't train at all. Like,
not just in anything.
Yeah, exactly, in all sports. And like, as long as it works for you, that's fine. This is what works for me. I have my team. I have my partners. I have my sparring partners. I have my boxing partners. I have my wrestling partners. I have all my coaches here. I have my family here. I have the gyms that I need here, and I take to it. I'm super receptive to this training. I get better every session. I think every time you see me step in the octagon, I'm a better version of myself. And as long as I'm getting the results I need. This is what I need, and this is where I'm from. This is great. You know, I think we have a lot of success here. Let's not ruin the recipe. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Titus, when he said once we were talking, just it wasn't on the podcast, but we were just talking. He said success is a DNA, and when you take away like one of those strands, small as it may be, you don't know what. You don't know if it's going to be a potato or a chicken.
You're getting a mutant.
Yeah, you don't know. So I think that's very important as well.
A potato or a chicken.
Could be. There's not that much difference.
Isn't there?
Probably not. Probably not. If you change stuff, you know how they say like that. No. I'm serious. You know how they say like, say for example, we know talking about chromosomes. Like there's not.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Oh fuck, isn't he's laughing at me? He's laughing at me, and now you're all going back with your tails between your legs.
Oh, hell.
Everyone's going backwards.
Man, biology with Fab.
I'll do what I can.
Wednesday nights biology.
You watch.
Fab,
You
6
watch.
PM.
Go tell us about your bat. Go tell us about the bat. Tell us about the 4 meter bat.
Oh, come on, man! It was an accident.
He told us he had a 4 meter bat.
No, I thought
He told us he saw a 4 meter bat.
the fruit bats in the Northern Territory can get huge.
Yeah.
Not 4 meters. Though.
Not 4 meters, but I told everyone it was 4 meters.
Is that the Batman story that you wanted to be a 4 meter bat? Is that?
Nah, he was telling us this. This is a true story. Don't gloss over it. No.
But wasn't we talking before? Who wanted to be Batman?
Him.
You did.
You.
No, you did. I didn't want to be Batman. He's got no superpowers.
Move forward.
Move forward. So just sort of bringing sort of the jet lag. So pretty much what you're nearly a month out from a fight.
Yeah, so we're just a little bit over 5 weeks, closer to 5 weeks now, from my rematch with Yoel Romero. Things are going perfect. Yeah. Like I haven't felt this great before a fight in so long.
Biggest thing that shot up was the poster that you did with Romero on the bus.
Oh yeah,
that just went viral. Everyone loved it.
Yeah, because like it's funny. We obviously we only had one bus for obvious reasons, and we were all hopping on and like every seat was taken. The last guy to hop on was Yoel. And the only available seat was next to me, and it was, of course, of course, I had to sit next to Yoel the whole thing. But what's funny is that trip, I spent so much time with him. Yeah. Like not only the bus trip there, but then at the press conference, and then I had a bunch of media dates with him that we had to sit next to each other, or we had to answer questions like one me, one him, one me. It was so weird, so awkward. But lucky enough, he's a super top guy. He's a real nice, humble, down to earth guy, and it was easy to do. Yeah, still by the end of it, I was still very happy to leave his presence because as much as I like the guy, I know I still have to fight him, and that never leaves my mind. So I'll be much happier once his fight's done because then we can be friends. He's a nice guy, but yeah, I ended up spending so much time with him, and but it was a good, successful trip. We finished up the trip in Chicago. Went to the arena where the Michael Jordan statue is. It was unreal. It was unreal. It was obviously a very famous arena. Chicago is a nice city. It's a beautiful city. It was snowing there still. They had some late snow, so I definitely wasn't dressed for that. Coming out of summer in Australia, and then we jumped to like New York and Chicago was freezing.
Just with that, with your fighting, so you're coming from Sydney, it's freaking random weather at the moment too, and then you go on to Chicago. How much does temperature and sort of the environment shifts and with your fighting?
Yeah, it can change, but like I train a lot indoors. It's the biggest difference was like the trip that just passed. There was a big difference because like obviously we were leaving from summer in Australia to winter, like just the end of winter of Brooklyn, Chicago, which was cold. But luckily we're going to leave cold here, go to hot there in the summer in Chicago, so it should be good. We finished up with that trip, like I was saying before, did all our media, finished up in Chicago, but unfortunately we lost a man in Brooklyn. We did. You want to?
What did he do, Fab?
You can talk.
You want to? No, it's your story. It's your.
I'll say something before that though. I think cold to hot, like Australian cold to hot overseas, it doesn't really affect us that much, I don't think, because Australia doesn't get that cold, and we're used to the heat. So it's not, would you say, it's not that bad?
Yeah, it's not that bad. Every time we go to Vegas in the desert heat, it's like, it's annoying because I don't like the heat to begin with, but it's not that bad.
But I think heat to extreme cold is a bitch.
Yeah, well, the thing is, because we don't ever get the cold. Like, winter
minus
here...
20.
Yeah, winter here, I can still wear no jumper. Like, we're good. Over there, there's snow. Like, it's freezing, and it's hard to deal with because I don't have the clothes for it. Like, I just took shorts overseas, and it was freezing.
I did not get caught out. I do not get caught out with the cold because I don't handle cold. So I got like a it's not here, it's in my car, but it's like a ski jacket for now.
He wears it here in Australia, like in Sydney. Like, he wears a ski jacket. Like, it's ridiculous. There's no need for
caught out.
There's no need for it.
Never.
So who got lost?
I didn't get lost. You tell the story, Rob. Tell it.
So,
if you start something, have the balls to finish it.
the end of the Brooklyn part of the trip, Fab comes down to the lobby limping, and he's like, oh, I think there's something wrong with my toe, but it'll be all right. I go, show me it. He showed me it. His foot was like this, and there was like it looked like. Have you seen Alien?
Yeah.
Have you seen it when the thing's about to explode from his belly? It looked like that was on his toe, and I was like, man, you're gonna lose your foot. You need to go home and get that checked, because in the States, hospital fees and all that are quite high. Like, they're gnarly. So I was like, we're only here for another day or so. Just go home now, because just leave a day early, change your flights. And he's like, it took a little bit of convincing. We were in Brooklyn still. So we still had the Chicago lag, which was like a flight there, one day, then home. But I was like, just go home now, get it sorted out, make sure it's not as bad as it could be, so you don't lose your foot. And he's like,
it was bad.
Yeah, and then he ended up leaving. So we flew to Chicago, which is like a 2.5 hour flight.
We didn't fly.
No, I flew to Chicago. No, yeah, you did.
I did too, yeah.
No, we flew to Chicago, which is a 2.5 hour flight, which is annoying to begin with. Then he jumped on a flight from Chicago to Dallas.
And I was meant to get from Dallas to Sydney that night.
But he got to Dallas and you missed your flight.
Flight got delayed. The Chicago Dallas flight got delayed.
And he missed his flight in Dallas, so he had to stay a night in Dallas with his foot dying. Like, he was just by himself in Texas, and he had to stay like the whole day over to try to jump on the next plane. Like, it wasn't like the next morning; it was like the next night.
But then, like, his management organised 6 Degrees. Shout out 6 Degrees management.
Shout out.
They organised for a doctor to come and see me for a very reasonable price. It was like $600 Australian. So the doctor came out like at midnight. I hope it was a fucking doctor. I genuinely hope it wasn't like
it was not a doctor.
Probably a paid actor.
Yeah. It was not a doctor. I don't know any doctor that would come out at midnight to some stranger in Dallas.
He came out
with a foot fetish.
Yeah. Dude, he came out, he looked at my foot, he said it was bad. You know, my foot was like a Cabbage Patch Kid's foot. And then he went, good guy too, that guy. He went out and got me the antibiotics that I needed.
He just went to his car. He was a drug dealer. He's a drug dealer that they set up, and he just went there. You just got to pretend to be a doctor. He just looked at your toe, and then went to back his boot and just got some pills.
One thing I will say, the drugs in the US are really good. Those antibiotics worked harder, faster, and better than any other shit I've ever taken.
You looked stronger when I saw you. You looked stronger, like healthier. Because what was funny is, by the time he caught his flight, and by the time I left, it was almost the same time.
Yeah. So I just spent like time in Texas doing nothing. Like it was Texas is a nice place if people are good.
Yeah. So yeah, that was how that trip ended. But now we're into the final stretch. It's just 5 weeks left. We're just getting through the last hard training. But even still, it's not really hard training. We've been training the whole year round. We've just been plugging away. We're not rushing to get fit. We're not rushing to lose weight. Everything's on point. It's just we're just doing what we do day in, day out. Just hitting our sessions, enjoying them. and then eventually it'll be time for us to leave, fly over there, cruise into the weight, get the job done.
So with that, with what we're talking about before about jet lag and stuff, when are you looking at leaving?
26th of May.
26th. So I leave 2 weeks early. You know, by that stage, like if you're not fit by 2 weeks out, you're not getting fit. Like you've made mistakes, you're behind. You know what I mean? So we'll leave 2 weeks early. We'll get to Chicago. We'll move around every day. We'll drill still. The program stays the same. And then the fight week is just moving around, weight management, make the weight, rehydrate, eat all your food, replenish, and then fight time.
People don't realise he's not a small middleweight. Like they say, he's a small middleweight. He's like what are you, 96 and a half now?
Yeah, I'm 96 kilos out of season. So
like now you're 96.
Yeah, and I'm lean 96 now. Like I walk around and train at this weight. So yeah, I don't know why people have this notion I'm very small. I'm massive, bro.
Massive. Romero looked jacked.
Yeah,
Romero looked jacked.
Romero was still bigger.
He looked massive, dude. When we were in New York, I was like, fuck, this guy's huge.
I got thicker ankles, but
yeah, you did too, mate.
Let the record show I got thicker ankles.
Does that show up on the stats at the side of the...
I hope so.
Did you see the photo of
ankle
them?
width?
Did you see the photo of them on the...
Yeah, we were chatting about it.
We mentioned it earlier.
Okay.
How like the one spare seat was next to me.
With that, like, how is he so big? Like, this like, from a, Fabio, fitness teacher, all that stuff. How does someone get that big but still make weight?
I don't think he's, in fairness, all the jokes aside, I don't think he's that much bigger than Rob, to be honest.
Height-wise, he's same.
Nah, he's
a little bit shorter.
Yeah, and the build is very different. But like Rob was saying earlier, like Rob's got a different build. Like he's got thicker legs.
It's the ankles.
Yeah, no, well the bones are thicker. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got bigger, thicker bones in his legs. Like Romero's got massive thighs, but Rob is not small. They're just kind of built different. And Romero's he's like a classic mesomorph, like that hourglass sort of figure. And Rob's more like a...
Say Popeye. So,
say it.
Like somebody stuck...
I'm interested in that.
Like somebody stuck arms and legs on a Popeye. Like that.
That's what he's been calling me since the day he died.
He's built like
Popeye. What flavour?
He's built like a Westinghouse, but bit bigger.
We have a guy at the gym, Izzy.
Yeah.
Izzy Fitikefu, shout out
to Izzy Fitikefu.
Who literally looks like a fridge.
Yeah. He looks like a little black fridge.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, but it's a different build. So Romero's not. I think he will struggle to get to the weight. It's not easy for Rob to get to the weight. Romero's probably...
Because he didn't make weight last fight, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, yes, he didn't. And he didn't make it, like, people don't understand, 1.7 kilos or something he missed weight by. In boxing, he'd be in a different weight division. And 1.7 kilos in a guy like that is fucking huge.
And I've cut weight before. 200 grams is the difference between me going to hospital.
Far out.
And that's a big chunk.
Because that's, like Fab and I spoke about before around... all that fight week and that preparation, people think it's a party and it's like, it's fight week, but it's work for you guys, and you're actually cutting the weight and you're getting hammered.
I don't know who thinks it's a party.
They should be shot.
The general punter, they don't understand the bigger science of things. They just say, you're a superstar.
Fight week is the worst week. And I think that was a big thing. I was talking to Fab earlier today. It's I think that's why I don't take a lot of fights during the year. I don't try to cram as many as I can in there because it's a stressful thing. The lead up, the prep, the week itself. It's very stressful, and it's I don't think I liked that sort of stress. Obviously, I think where I'm at now, I'm in a better place because I'm enjoying everything a lot more. But that week is the worst week of your life because every fighter is cutting weight and they're moody.
Yeah.
And everyone has to fight everyone, so they're also guards up.
And it's so highly stressed. The coaches are stressed.
Yeah. And
the UFC staff are stressed.
Yeah, you bump into their coaching staff, you bump into your opponent, and we're gonna fight soon. I hate you. It is very, very stressful.
It's funny because the other things in that fight week, and people don't understand this as well, the media people are on deadlines. Like, you got to get this done by this time and get it out and get it done. So the media guys are on deadline and they're stressed. The producers of the show are stressed. The UFC staff are stressed. The people who look after the athletes to make sure that all the athletes are on weight, like the guys that work for the UFC, they weigh you in, like they weigh you in when you get there to how you going to ever fucking make weight, you know what I mean? Those people are stressed. They're stressed until they see, their main event walk through the doors, and then they're stressed their whole way through in case the main event falls down a flight of stairs and they have to cancel the main event. So they're all stressed. Everyone's stressed. And the fighters, the staff, coaches, everyone. Fight night happens, win, lose or draw. After that, like the next day, it's like totally different, eh?
Like it's night and day because no one cares anymore. Because to be fair, whether I win or lose on the Sunday, which is Monday here, on the Sunday morning, no one cares about me. No one cares about how the fight went. No one cares about what I'm going to do next until my next announcing. Like, no one cares anymore because it was all for that one night, and now it's over, and everyone is just de-stressed because there's no longer enemies. We're not fighting anymore. We're not supposed to fight anymore. We have fought. That's done. There's no show. There's no weight cuts. It's like everyone becomes a little bit more normal, and it's weird, dude.
Unless you're a total fucking knob, or unless there's something really personal between the groups and the fighters themselves. Like,
do you find that fight week will intensify because I see that you are a tight knit group, and if someone says some shit about you, do you feel that vibe?
I don't know what about me personally.
No, just because you are a tight knit group, and if the other fight camp is talking crap and stuff like that,
people don't really talk crap about us because
you just keep to yourself.
That's exactly it. Like they can't.
Because you see it with Conor McGregor and all that sort of shit. That there's a stigma around that image that these people hate each other.
I think he wants that image, but
yeah, I think, and fair play to him. You know what I mean? I think he definitely perpetuates it. And if you're going to fight someone that's going to do that, on the flip side of it, to me, I'd be like, go right ahead and do it, because I know what he's doing. Like, he wants to sell tickets and he's very good at it. So I don't even think, other than whatever happened when he threw the thing through the bus, but I don't even, I could not even take that serious. Do you get what I mean? I don't know. And if someone were to say something about me, who the fuck am I? I'm not going to... Why would you bother? Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't care.
Because the vibe that's coming up is that after the fight, you and Romero is going to have a burger together. That's...
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. We're enemies until June 9. Yeah. But after that, I'm a very much leave it on the field sort of bloke.
Yeah.
So in Brooklyn, you saw Stephen Thompson.
Yeah.
And Stephen Thompson had beat Rob just before you went up to middleweight.
Quite handedly.
and then they were just talking normal, and I think if you're at that level, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, people read self-help books and they go, the secret to success is because Robert believed, at the end of the day, man, you could fight someone and you win, and the next time you read the same self-help books, you do 2 forward rolls and pat your head, everything, and then you go see the same psychologist, and you bob when you should have weaved, and the dude takes your head off. And that's it. That's the truth of it. And I think the dudes at that level understand that too. They understand that can go the other way too. We're not going into this fight going, beat Romero once, may as well not train.
Yeah. But with that, say, we were talking before about the weight cuts and that sort of stuff, where, Rockhold took a fight with the weight. What's going to happen? So what will happen? We talk about all this pressure of fight week. Do you even think about that at this stage, or are you just this is my goal? Don't worry about the hype. He might make weight. He might.
Everything regarding him, we don't worry about. That's his problem. And we've got enough on our plate with just me.
Yeah.
And everything else we're doing. We're going to focus on what we can do and what we have control over, and that's it. That's all you really can do.
Yep.
And we're doing that. So
it's hard enough. It's like when you go for a job interview. It's you got enough worrying about have you got your presentation right, worry about
how good the next bloke is.
The 30 other people that are applying for the same position.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter. So, more or less, like that's been the last couple of months leading up to this next fight as well. We just got, I think we just finished doing UFC Embedded.
Yeah.
So I think that's the last of the media obligations. So we really are just coming into the last stint. Still over a month to the fight, and still about just under a month till we leave. But we're just doing what we do day in, day out, same stuff. We have a teammate fighting this weekend, Jacob Malcolm. He's fighting for the light heavyweight title.
He's going up in weight. He's going to fight Duke Didier in Brace in Canberra. So that's going to be good. And Jacob's definitely someone that will keep your eye on. He'll probably fight in the UFC very soon.
Or Bellator or something like that. He's one of my main sparring partners, training partners, friends.
Just so far, so call him a friend?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
So I suppose Izzy's your friend too?
He's my friend.
All right.
So on the card too, you got Ty?
Yeah, Ty's on that card.
You mean in terms of other Australians?
Other Australians
in Chicago.
Yeah, Ty Tuivasas are there.
Yeah.
As well as that Megan Anderson.
Yeah, Megan Anderson.
She's on there. I think that's it for Australians.
Keep
I believe.
going. I'll look it up.
I think that's it. But the card itself is stacked.
It's a big card.
Kobe Covington and RDA. We got the CM Punk.
CM Punk.
CM Punk's on there.
Yep.
Dave, did you?
Are you a wrestling fan?
Hey? No, that's what I was going to ask you. Were you a wrestling fan?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about CM Punk?
Yeah. Is he good?
Wrestling? He was one of the best. I think he had a big falling out with the McMahon family, and that's why he sort of left the WWE.
Oh.
So he's a bit of a renegade sort of guy, but he was like sort of, a bit more of an underdog, a rebellious sort of type character. He's a bit of an icon in the WWE. So I think everyone wants him to come back. But Triple H and the McMahons are not. Apparently, I don't know if you believe that rumor stuff, but CM Punk, he lost his first fight. I watched that.
He did to that young kid that came through. Mickey Gore.
Yeah.
But Megan Anderson, I follow her on sort of Snapchat and stuff.
She's fighting Ronda. Yep. No, not fucking
Holly.
I have it here. No, it looks like a good card. Like it's stacked from top to bottom. There's some really good fights.
But you know Ty pretty well.
Like I don't. Rob knows him better than me. We've been trying to get him on the podcast, but
he's in Thailand at the moment.
Gone AWOL.
Yeah. He's not even in the country.
Yeah, he's in Thailand.
Like, what were we going to ask about Ty?
Oh, just like your views on sort of him as a as an Australian fighter, and they like that persona that all the fighters are overseas and stuff. Where you got this new sort of age of Australian fighters that are coming through.
I think Ty's just he's born to be a fighter. Obviously, I think he's like a very pure sense of that concept.
I think getting paid to fight is like a Western commodity.
Yeah.
For him, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it would matter to Ty. Like he's like the few times I've spoken to him, he's like been nothing but a gentleman, But you can tell he's not like it's not a game to him. Like he's like legit fighter. He can fight.
He's a good guy, but like I get along well with him.
And, he's got all the talent in the world to go the whole way.
I'm very excited to see how he goes.
Good. It's awesome. No, it sounds like a exciting card, and obviously you're the headline.
I look forward to it.
Is this the second card you've been the headline for?
Yeah, but this is the first pay-per-view event I've been meant to be the headline.
Because the last fight was
the last year I remember I became the headline, but through accident. So
is that a different weight on your shoulders from the UFC being the headline? Have they put extra sort of media pressures and all that other stuff?
Yeah, they do countdowns and embedded stuff and all that sort of stuff as well.
So you're the man.
Yeah, for a little bit.
No, I just I think like Mark was saying that before, like all of that, but at the end of the day, it's still the fight's the same. The fight's a fight, and you can't let too much of that be all over you.
That's a big problem. Is that a lot of the guys, like the UFC, are hyping it up for obvious reasons. They're hyping it that fight week. They're hyping up what you're doing for obvious reasons, and they hype it up to hell. Like they go well and truly overboard.
Do you watch the cuts and stuff and the promos?
Zero. I let Sophia watch it and she ticks it off. I say good enough for me. But that's the thing though. They're hyping it up to their absolute maximum. But you know, at the end of the day, you're still just fighting a guy. You've only got your 25 minutes of spotlight to fight a guy, and that's it. That's all you'll do. And then tomorrow, no one will care about you. And I think like you need to keep that in your mind, is that's all you're doing. You're an athlete with this skill set. You're not bigger than what you think you are. You know, you're not some big shot that you know what I mean?
World poverty or something. You know what I mean? Like you're not.
Yeah, you're not doing anything. You're not inventing electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that, like you hear a lot of motivational speakers, and I think Will Smith does a thing about visualizing you winning. Is that one of your techniques? Do you sort of go to bed at night saying, and you can visualize?
If I go to bed at night thinking about fighting, I twitch and it's horrible. I can't sleep.
I think like there's nothing wrong with visualizing. I think it happens with Rob, for instance, it happens through a process of discussion and whatnot, and we discuss different variables. But I've never, and this is me, my opinion, but I've never been a massive fan on all of that. I think, and I'm not talking about Will Smith in particular, but I think a lot of that stuff is stuff like, say, for example, when people talk about training methods, recovery, visualization, it's education is another one. It's packaged together sometimes in ways that have become very commercial, very jargon, very like, you know, and you do this and you visualize that and then you do it like this and then you will be the champ.
That's the secret.
Yeah, that's the secret, that type of shit, you know what I mean? And yeah, there is visualization, 100%. But not the way I think, the dicky way that people do it. It's the same way when people talk about recovery, and I touched on this the other day, and they go, so Rob does nothing for recovery, and I think, no, he does a lot, because recovery is not, you know, they'll listen to a podcast or they'll listen to something and they'll go, I've got to go and sit in a cryo tank or in a whatever, who cares, or get 12 massages a week or whatever. And I think, yeah, but it's a holistic look. So what do you do with the rest of your life? Because a massage lasts for 1 hour. What do you do with the other, 168 hours in the week? You know what I mean? So it's like, what's your diet like? What's your rest like? How do you sleep? What do you eat? Do you drink alcohol? All of those things, you know? Because if like I see some football teams or other athletes and they'll go, oh, I went to this and I got this done. Rob doesn't do that. And I'm thinking, dude, you put up an Instagram photo of you in the nightclub the night before drinking. So why the fuck did you go to get a massage? Why didn't you just save yourself $600, not drink alcohol, and recover? And also, and these are things that we talk about with Justin Lang or whatever, like when you work out, there's given X amount of hours in a day. You drive across the city to get something done. How much does that help you recover versus you being at home with your family and going to sleep and having a healthy lifestyle? And I'm not against it. Like, we do have a massage guy that comes in and does stuff. We do have different modes of recovery, but they come at the end of a healthy lifestyle. They come at the end of making sure you get your sleep in, making sure you get your water in, making sure you get your food in, making sure you do the correct training sessions, making sure that you fill in all your sheets that you have to fill in that allow us to program and periodize your training. Because, you know, there's a whole bunch of spreadsheets that we have to fill out to ensure that the training loads are correct. So then, if we can fit something in, we might. But everything is programmed so that we're not.
I never hit a point where I'm redlining, unless it's like I'm getting sick or I've gotten sick.
Or it's been programmed.
Yeah, or it's been programmed like, okay, you should be redlining here. Like, it's not like, it never happens. Like, people have asked me, so you don't do anything for recovery? And it's like, I'm never sore. No. I'm not sore. I'm not tired. I just make sure I eat properly and go to bed when I'm supposed to go to bed. Hit all my stretching sessions.
So does the vision lie of success in the trust in the program? Is that sort of the combination?
The secret of success is it could be anything.
There's
a big discussion there.
I think a big one's consistency.
Yeah.
Man, I think Rob's right in that. You have to start off and like define success. You know what I mean? Like, because like if for example, because you could do things wrong and still beat Romero. He can just walk into a right hand and maybe Rob wins and Romero loses. Is that success? I don't know. You know what I mean? There'll be people that will say yes. Is success doing 27-year-old guy being the champion of the world or being a perennial contender, getting paid decent amount of money to do what he loves, having 5 kids at home that he can care for, having a beautiful wife, seeing his father every day? Is that successful? And having a program that allows for you to do that whilst at the same time looking after business interests for the future, then yeah, that's kind of what we do, and that's our vision of success. And if he wins a fight or loses a fight or wins the belt or loses the belt, they are results in a very like tiny thing. That's not what we measure success by.
Because like the assumption of like the general person is like, oh, you visualize that you can achieve this goal and then you do the hard work behind of it and you succeed. Where
you're a successful person, but
but it's same sort of stuff. Like I have my own training, I have my own routines. I know to get to somewhere. And do I overly visualize what I'm going to be doing and how I view success? No. Like I like that's. I'm just interested. Like, do you see like because like you know. There's particular people who think that the fighter visualizes themselves with the belt every night and that's what's going to make them a champion. I've had this dream of being a champion.
Maybe.
And is that like, or is that motivation?
For me,
like, just in.
Maybe that person it drives them. I don't think that drives Rob. It certainly doesn't drive me in my career. There's things that I think about, like where I'm like, I need to do this, I need to do that, you know, and then like being my personality how it is, I'll make a list and I'll send that off to Rob and I'll say these are the things that need to be done. But I don't know that Rob visualizing every day that he's going to win the belt maybe gives him comfort, but I don't know that that's going to stop Romero from trying to decapitate him. You know what I mean?
100%.
And if he's not, can't go up to Romero and go, hey,
I saw this.
I fucking visualized this, you Cuban missile. You stay away from me. You know. So, but then again, it's like what I was referring to before. Like, I don't think that a lot of people, even a lot of fighters, don't like understand or even give the value to what success is. So people say, oh yeah, bullshit, he's talking shit. But why? How am I talking shit? Like, if success is not the belt, success is having 5 kids at home, having his wife there, having his dad there, being able to know that you're set after fighting, that you have businesses set up, that you've got a good group of friends that aren't going to desert you when your career's done, knowing that you can go watch your son train, who's, by the way, Jack started training wrestling. Like, how is that not successful? And what's the belt mean to any of that? So let's say 9th of June comes along, hope it doesn't happen, but let's say Romero wins. Good for Romero. Romero's going to get the belt, he's going to go home, and he's going to enjoy the financial benefits that come off of that. Rob's going to take a financial hit. He's going to 9th of June, then he'll be back in the gym the next day, and everything else, minus the belt and some money, will be the same. But realistically, we've got businesses set up. We've got things in place. That's success to me. The belt will bring the money. It'd be great to have a belt. I'm not going to lie. Of course it's going to be great to have a belt. Of course it's going to be great to benefit from the financial incentives of being the world champion. Of course. But that's a result. That's not what we deem as success. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
100% agree. My success doesn't come from getting the belt. My success comes from living the life that I have. My life is success. You know, not that one fight. I'm not gonna let my whole life be decided by 25 minutes, whether or not I'm successful. Doesn't that seem a bit ridiculous?
Yeah, it does. Like, but it's like, you know, in saying that, that's such a powerful message, because some people define their whole life by one moment in time, and your stakes are massive. Like, you're talking, but someone who, you know, has had you know, an incident, and they let that impact on everything. Where
it depends what the incident is.
Yeah, definitely you know, 100%. But like, sort of just that ideology of like the relationship. So just to sum up what we were talking about, like the relationships, your trust in those relationships, that those relationships, they're still going to stay there, and they're still going to grow, and this consortium that you've built as part of your model is going to support you regardless.
Exactly.
And that's massive.
The other thing is, like, you know, people talk about like the motivation and da-da-da, but man, like, if you see Romero standing across from you, you do not need any other motivation, like, to fight your little heart out. Like, it doesn't matter. You can put my mum in there. My mum's going to fight her hardest. It's not going to last.
She's going to go down swinging.
Yeah, but like, you don't need any extra motivation to fight him. You know what I mean? What you're getting paid even doesn't matter, because Romero's going to try and rip your head off. So there's nothing more motivating than that. You're not thinking, like, while you're in there thinking, you're not going, I hope I get the bonus.
I'm going to give this one a little bit extra.
Yeah, like, it's gone. It's like primitive. It's like fight or flight. You're not thinking about the money.
And you can't flight because you're locked in the cage.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is.
The other thing was, like, I was thinking when you're talking about the title and all that, and I was thinking with yourself, like, you have your job title now. If they came in and they changed it, or you lost your job or whatever, does that mean that you stop being David Roberts? Like,
no, that's a good point. Oh.
How do you feel? But you tell us how you feel.
No, it's just the title. It's just a thing I'm branded with for this particular in time. But all the stuff I did pre that hopefully has set me up to go in a future direction that's not really relying on a title.
And I think that it would be different if Rob had an image that what he did was really, really, really special, as opposed to just understanding that of course it's different, but it's not that different to what you do, not that different to what I do. He just has a particular skill set. And so the same way you just said that, same.
That's what I took from what we were talking about earlier as well, is that you once you come to understand that you are the job, so you are the skill sets that make the job. So whether you're in this job or this role or this title or belt holder, you are the job, you are the role, you are the title. Like, you can go anywhere you want, you know? What do you do then, Dave, when you, for your goal setting, for your side? Because you're someone that thinks very strategically. You know, I've taken a lot from you, you know, like in stuff we have a lot of discussions, and we use a lot of our discussions back with Rob and in other business settings. But what are some of the things that you use for foresight, for business decisions? You think very strategically, you think outside of the box, you think laterally. So what's some of your techniques, strategies and whatnot?
Yeah, pretty much my stuff comes from knowing the environment. So like I use a lot of traditional Aboriginal knowledge and sort of, you know, teachings from sort of what I would say my elders. So they talk a lot about, like, if you know the environment, if you know how it's moving, you'll know how the animals will run, you know how the water will flow. And the more you know the environment and everything around it, the better you can strategically put yourself in that environment to get the outcome that you want. So if I don't know how the wind's moving at a particular time of the season, I don't know how to throw a boomerang correctly. Does that sort of make sense?
100%.
So when I apply that knowledge and I put it into a business sense, it's comes back to that core stuff. Problems. Yeah, and it comes back to relationships. So that's why I was so interested.
That's the same.
That's the same thing.
Past
like,
behaviours.
Yeah, like so my relationship with the land and the environment and knowing what's around me helps me build that. And I think that was what you were saying, that's coming into enlightenment for you, because you're more aware of these relationships and this connection to your environment. Yeah, because that's your environment. Like, whether we're talking about, 60,000 years ago, this is the current environment. So that's where my business strategy comes from, is really looking at, how, people lived hundreds and thousands of years ago and still survived. It's the same strategies that we use now. We share stories. So for me, a corroboree was a whole bunch of people getting together, sharing their stories of survival when we did it via song and dance. Now we do it via podcasts.
Yeah, but exactly that. Like, people look at it and they don't understand that. Like, I don't think people understand like the power of communication, the power of stories, or the power of being able to understand what it is that you're going. That, like, not understanding. Say, for example, if I read stuff and I've read enough on certain topics to understand that those past behaviours are about to happen, and that's what sometimes I'll say to you, this is what I think is going to happen. It's not because I'm a soothsayer or the oracle. Like, I've read enough case studies or heard enough stories, or been to enough corroborees, so to speak, to understand that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, or when we talk about life experience, you've been through enough seasons to know that the season's about to change because this plant's in bloom, or, you know what I mean? Like, it just becomes more intrinsic knowledge of you knowing your environment and your reaction to that environment. So the way I see it is, the more I know about my environment, the more I can predict it.
100% makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and relationship to the environment and your understanding of your relationship to the environment heightens it. So that's what I think what I got out of this podcast today, is that your relationship is what really works, and it's your relationship with the environment that you are currently working in. And that environment in this case is the fight game, but you have other consortiums where that same environment could be building education, or, you know, it's out with your conglomerate. It could be any part of the business. You're not just relying on this one element.
That's the other thing why when people talk about success is we might have a fighter and he's not as gifted. He's not going to go all the way to the title, and if he does, he's probably not going to defend it, you know, or he's not going to be a perennial contender or whatever. But that doesn't mean that you can't build successful business models around that person if he fits into the business model that you have, and can't be successful in that realm. Just, you might not be a great fighter. That's all. That's like 1% of the things that you could do within that consortium.
Cool. We're coming up to the end, so I just again want to thank you for your time. It's been fantastic having you on the show.
No, it's always a pleasure.
Yep. Good luck. I don't normally like to say good luck because you have done all the prep, but you know, hopefully we'll have a chat when you're back and have a safe trip. Don't vomit too much.
Thank you.
You're still blanked out, aren't you? Like, no camera?
I've got a bit of camera back, so it's when you move at particular times, I get fuzzy and I come in and out.
I was going to say, give us like a narrator's ending. Wouldn't that be good?
Do it.
Yeah. Like a Morgan Freeman voice.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say about it? Like, I can't even think of a...
This is the end, and then me and Fab are going to leave.
The time has come where we must go our separate ways into the journey of the forbidden unknown of the environments and the relationships they've built.
Stop, please. Stop.
You told me to do it.
Oh my god. Right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I was trying to channel my into...
oh my god, that was the worst fucking thing I've heard.
Can you do it?
Nah.
Come on.
No, man. I have self-esteem, self-worth.
I did have self-worth until you freaking made me do that.
Thanks for this, guys.
All
right, cool. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Oh, what a perfect way to end it.